For 48 years, I shared a bed with a man who never truly saw me, not as a woman, not as someone to be loved, just as someone who belonged to him. Twice a month, always in silence, always in darkness, he would touch me like a chore that needed finishing. No kisses, no words, no warmth. And when it was over, he would roll away, already snoring, while I lay staring at the ceiling fan as it turned slowly above my head. Outside, the crickets sang. Somewhere far away, a boat horn echoed down the river. And every single time I asked myself the same question: is this what love is supposed to feel like? My friends would whisper about their husbands, about passion, about closeness, about feeling wanted. I would smile, nod, pretend I understood, but inside I felt nothing. Nothing. No spark, no warmth, no desire. For years, I believed something was wrong with me. I told myself I was broken, that my body simply didn't work the way other women's did, that I had been born cold, empty, incapable of feeling the things love was supposed to bring. So I stopped hoping. I stopped questioning. I learned how to exist instead of live. My name is Eleanor May Carter, though after marriage I became Eleanor Carter Whitmore. I grew up in a proud old family in coastal Georgia. Big white house, perfect manners, church every Sunday. My father was a respected judge. My mother ran social events like a queen on a throne. From the time I could walk, I was taught 3 things: be polite, be quiet, obey. Women didn't dream, women didn't argue, women accepted, and I did. I accepted when they chose my future. I accepted when they told me who to marry. I accepted the life placed in my hands without ever being asked if I wanted it. I was 19 when I met the only man who ever made me feel alive. His name was Daniel Brooks. He was nothing like the men my parents approved of. Grease on his hands, laughter in his voice, sunlight in his eyes. He worked on cars near the park where I walked every afternoon after teaching Sunday school. FS. We only smiled, then we talked. Then one evening beneath the hanging moss of an old oak tree, he kissed me. And in that moment, my entire body woke up. It was like color rushed into a world that had always been gray. My heart raced, my skin burned. I finally understood what love was supposed to feel like. I thought I had found my forever. I had no idea my family was about to destroy it, because in the world I came from, love didn't matter, obedience did. And the price of disobedience was everything. I thought my father would yell when he found out about Daniel. I was wrong. He did something far worse. Something that would rip Daniel out of my life and trap me in a marriage. I would spend nearly 50 years trying to survive. I knew the moment I walked into the house that something was wrong. The curtains were closed in the middle of the afternoon. The air felt heavy, like a storm was trapped inside the walls. My mother stood near the hallway, hands folded tightly in front of her, eyes fixed on the floor. And in the living room, my father sat in his chair. In his hand was his leather belt. Closed the door. Eleanor. His voice was soft, which somehow made it terrifying. I obeyed. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't ask questions. He already knew. Someone had seen Daniel and me in the park. Someone had told. The first strike came before I could speak. The belt cracked against my back, sharp and burning. I cried out. The second hit followed, then another. My legs buckled, but he didn't stop. Each blow carried more than pain. It carried control, ownership, punishment. My mother didn't move, didn't speak, didn't try to help me. When he finally stopped, I collapsed to the floor, shaking. "You will never see that boy again," he said coldly. "Tomorrow you will meet your fiancé. The wedding will be next month." I stared up at him in disbelief. "I love Daniel," I whispered. His eyes hardened. "If I ever hear his name again, I will make sure he never works in this state. I'll ruin him, and if you disobey me, I'll ruin you too." I knew then he meant every word. That night, I cried until my body ached worse than the beating, not just for the pain, but for the life I was losing. The girl who dreamed, the girl who laughed, the girl who believed in love, she died on that floor 3 days later. The man I was to marry arrived. Richard Whitmore, 36 years old, a successful lawyer, rich, respected, and old enough to be my father. He looked me over like a purchase. He said, "Young, she give me strong children." My father smiled proudly. I felt sick. No one asked what I wanted. No one cared. The wedding happened before I could breathe. A white dress, fake smiles, applause, congratulations. Everyone thought I was beginning a beautiful life. In truth, I was entering a prison. The wedding night was quick, cold, painful. There was no tenderness, no love, no warmth. When it ended, Richard rolled away and fell asleep instantly. And I lay there staring at the ceiling fan for the very first time, beginning the habit I would keep for nearly 50 years. That night I asked myself, is this what marriage is? If it was, then love had been a lie. Months turned into years, years into decades. Duty replaced desire, silence replaced joy. Children came, 3 of them, and I loved them with everything I had. They were the only light in a dark life, but every night I returned to that same bed, the same emptiness, the same cold routine, and slowly I stopped feeling altogether. My body shut down, my heart closed. I survived, but I never lived. I spent nearly 50 years believing I was broken until the day my husband died. And 3 months later, in a grocery store checkout line, I came face to face with the only man I ever truly loved. When Richard died, the world expected me to be shattered, and I was just not in the way they imagined. I cried at the funeral. I wore black. I accepted hugs and whispered condolences. Everyone said I had been a devoted wife, a strong woman, a perfect example of loyalty. But behind the tears was something I never admitted out loud. Relief. For the first time in 48 years, I could breathe. No one would touch me again out of duty. No one would command my life. No one would control my choices. I felt guilty for feeling free, but freedom has a way of overpowering shame. The months after his death were quiet, strange, peaceful. I slept more than I ever had. I woke when I wanted. I drank my coffee slowly instead of rushing through routine. For the first time in my life, no one told me what to do. And slowly, I started to feel like a person again. Memories I had buried began to surface. The oak tree, in the park, a warm laugh, a kiss that once made my whole body come alive. Daniel. I wondered where life had taken him. If he was married, if he was happy, if he ever thought about me the way I still thought about him. I told myself it didn't matter. That part of my life was long gone. Then one autumn morning, I decided to bake a pie. It sounds small, but for me it was freedom. I hadn't gone grocery shopping alone in nearly 50 years. My husband had always said it wasn't proper, but he was gone now. So I drove myself to the neighborhood market, enjoying the feeling of independence like a teenager with her first car. The store was busy, carts rolling, music playing softly overhead, the smell of fresh bread and fruit filling the air. I placed my items on the conveyor belt: flour, sugar, butter, pecans, and that's when I felt it, that strange sensation of being watched. I looked up and my heart stopped. To check out, lanes away, stood a man with silver hair, broader shoulders, and a face marked by time. But those eyes, those unmistakable blue eyes, Daniel Brooks. For 1 second, the world froze. 50 years elapsed. Into a single breath, he stared at me like he had seen a ghost. Slowly, carefully, he stepped toward me as if afraid I might disappear. "Ellie Mae," he said softly, the nickname only he ever used. Tears spilled from my eyes before I could speak. Right there in the middle of the grocery store, he wrapped me in his arms, and the moment he touched me, something inside me woke up. A warmth, spark, a feeling I hadn't known in nearly 5 decades. My body remembered. "I never forgot you," he whispered. "Not a single day." Neither had I. We sat outside on a bench and talked for hours. He had gone north for work, built a career, lived a quiet life, never married. Every woman I met, he admitted, "I compared to you, and none of them were you." My heart broke and healed all at once. I told him about my marriage, about the years of emptiness, about believing I was broken. He took my hands gently. "You were never broken, Ellie. You were just with the wrong man." And then he looked at me in a way that made my breath catch. "Would you like to come see my place by the coast?" Fear and hope battled inside me, but something stronger won. "Yes," I whispered. I was terrified to go with him, terrified that I would feel nothing again, but what happened that night would change everything. I believed about love and about myself. The drive to the coast felt unreal. The sky burned orange as the sun dipped low, and the breeze coming through the open windows smelled like salt and freedom. Daniel drove with one hand on the wheel, the other gently resting over mine, like he was afraid letting go would make me vanish. Neither of us spoke much. Some moments are too heavy with feeling for words. His house was small, a simple blue cottage near the water, nothing like the grand home I had lived in for decades, but it felt warm, alive, real. Inside smelled like coffee and ocean air. We sat on the couch, close but not touching at first. I could feel my heart pounding. "You're scared?" he said softly. "I am," I admitted. I spent my whole life believing something was wrong with me. What if I still feel nothing? He turned toward me, holding my hands gently. "Ellie, listen to me. You were never broken. You were never cold. You were just never loved the way a woman should be." His words loosened something inside my chest. "And if tonight all we do is sit here and talk, that's enough," he added. "I waited 50 years for you. I can wait longer." That patience, that kindness, it healed more than any touch ever could. But I didn't want to wait. I leaned in and kissed him, slow, nervous, real. And when he kissed me back, something sparked deep inside my body. A warmth spreading like sunrise after a long winter. He led me gently to the bedroom. Moonlight spilled through thin curtains. The sound of waves whispered outside. The ceiling fan turned lazily above us. Everything felt calm, safe, different. Every touch he gave me was soft, asking, not taking. And with every touch, I felt more of a shiver down my spine. Heat in my chest, a feeling I thought I had lost forever. My body responded slowly at first, then all at once, tears rolled down my cheeks, not from pain, but from emotion. "I can feel it," I whispered in disbelief. He smiled gently. "I knew you would." What happened next wasn't rushed. It wasn't cold. It wasn't empty. It was warm, deep, loving. For the first time in my life, I understood what intimacy was meant to be. I laughed and cried at the same time as waves of feeling moved through me. Not just pleasure, but release. 50 years of silence. Breaking open. 50 years of believing I was broken, melting away. When we finally lay together, his arms around me, I stared at the ceiling fan once again. But this time, I was smiling. I wasn't broken. I whispered. "No," he said. "You were just waiting for real love." I thought finding love at 71 would be the hardest part. I had no idea the real battle was about to begin when my family found out. For the first time in my life, I woke up smiling. Sunlight poured through the curtains. The sound of seagulls echoed outside. Danielle's arm rested warmly around my waist, holding me like something precious. I wasn't in my old bedroom anymore. Wasn't in my old life. I was finally awake. We spent days together by the water, walking barefoot along the shore, laughing like teenagers, talking about all the years we lost and all the years we still had. He showed me his favorite fishing pier, his quiet cafe, the places where sunsets painted, the sky like fire. Every moment felt like a gift. But happiness never stays hidden long in a small town. When I returned home, the whispers started immediately. At church, at the market, on the phone. "Did you hear Eleanor is seeing some man, already moving on after her husband died?" How shameful at her age. I lifted my head higher and kept walking. For once, I didn't care. Then my daughter called. Her voice shook. "Mama, people are talking." I told her everything, about Daniel, about our past, about the marriage I never chose, about the life I endured. There was silence on the line. Finally, she whispered, "I never knew you were unhappy. I hid it so you could have a peaceful childhood," I said softly. She cried. I cried. And slowly, she understood. But my son did not. He accused me of embarrassing the family, of ruining his father's memory, of acting foolish. "For 50 years I lived for this family," I said firmly. "Now, I'm living for myself." He hung up. The hardest moment came when my daughter showed up unannounced. She looked around the house like it already belonged to her. "That man is obviously using you," she said. "A widow with money is an easy target." Anger rose in my chest like fire. "Daniel has more money than this house ever held," I replied. And even if he didn't, he wants me, not my wealth, she scoffed. People are judging you. Let them, I said calmly. I survived 50 years of misery. I won't surrender my happiness now. She left furious. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I felt powerful. That evening, Daniel held my hands and said, "Are you sure you're ready for this fight?" I looked at him, the man who brought me back to life. I fought my whole life in silence. I said, "This time, I fight for love." I thought standing up for love would be enough. But then something happened that forced me to choose between my family and the life I had waited 50 years to live. The pressure didn't stop. Calls came every day, family, friends, church women, distant relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly cared deeply about my reputation. They all said the same thing. Think about your family. Think about what people will say. Think about your age. Not once did anyone ask if I was happy. My son stopped calling altogether. My daughter struggled but tried to understand. I stood in the middle of it all, shaking not from fear this time, but from realization that I had lived my entire life making choices for others. Now, I finally had one choice that was truly mine. Daniel never pressured me, never argued, never demanded. One evening, as we sat watching the sun sink into the ocean, he spoke gently. "Ellie, staying with me costs you your family. I'll let you go. I love you too much to be the reason you're torn apart." I turned to him, my eyes burning with tears. "I lost myself once to please everyone," I said. "I won't do it again." The next morning, I called a family meeting. They arrived, expecting apologies. Instead, they got the truth. "I spent nearly 50 years in a marriage I never chose," I said calmly. "I survived it for you. I sacrificed for you. I stayed quiet for you. Now I am choosing happiness for me." My son argued. My daughter cried. My daughter Renor scoffed. But I didn't bend. "I love you all," I continued, "but I will not live my final years in loneliness to protect appearances." Silence filled the room. Then my daughter stepped forward and hugged me. "If he makes you this happy," she whispered, "then you deserve it." That was enough. I sold the big empty house that had always felt like a prison. I moved to the coast, into the little blue cottage, into real life. Daniel and I built slow mornings, beach walks, laughter filled evenings, and love that finally felt the way it always should have. Sometimes we talked about the years we lost, but mostly we focused on the years we gained. And now, when I lie in bed at night and look up at the ceiling fan turning softly above me, I don't feel emptiness anymore. I feel warmth, I feel peace, I feel alive. I learned something at 71 that I wish every woman knew sooner. You are not broken, you are not too late, and it is never selfish to choose happiness. Love didn't fail me. It was just waiting for the right time to find me again. If love can come back after 50 years, what second chances might life still be holding for you?